Hey guys, so it's time for another conspiracy theory, and this week we are talking about the one and only Titanic. Or was it the Titanic? Stay tuned to find out. Everybody knows that the launch date of Titanic was 10th of April 1912. This is common knowledge. It's one of the biggest events in history, and people just know this. But what a lot of people don't know is that this wasn't meant to be the launch date of the Titanic. The Titanic was meant to set sail in, I think it was March. I'll put the date on the screen if I can find it. If I can't, then I think it was sometime in March. But its sister ship, the Olympic, had a collision around the sort of time it was meant to set sail, and it wasn't covered by insurance because it had another collision beforehand, and so it wasn't looking too good. And the company that owned the Titanic, the White Star Line, couldn't really afford to take this ship out of circulation. So a lot of people think that Titanic's launch was pushed back to April 10th was because they swapped the ships. So instead of sending out the Titanic, they actually sent out the Olympic. If you look at pictures from the Titanic launch and everything like that, you will notice a certain number of portholes. I can't remember off the top of my head, but the number is on the screen. Now, if you look at pictures while the Titanic was being built, you will notice that there are less portholes. But all the portholes on the Titanic when it was being built were the same size, same shape, and same distance apart. However, when you look to its launch, you notice that there are more portholes. They are kind of the same size, but not all of them are. And they're not the same distance apart. Some are further apart than others, and some are closer together. So that's another reason people think the Olympic and Titanic were switched, is because this was the case for the Olympic, but in pictures from when Titanic was being built, there was a different number of portholes. A few days before Titanic's launch, the hull of the ship alone had its insurance raised from a couple of thousand, because ships, each part was insured differently, so if something went wrong or were to happen, the insurance would pay this out. And for the hull alone, in 1912, it was insured for £1 million. In today's money, that's about 95 million. So my thoughts on this were, if Titanic was planned to go down, then of course they were going to raise the insurance money, because then they would get a bigger payout. They could build another ship, or start building another ship, or pay for the repairs on the Olympic if they hadn't actually switched the ships. Now, a lot of wealthy, famous people bought tickets to travel on the Titanic because it was the greatest ship of all time. People wanted to be on this ship for its maiden voyage. But when you look at records, a lot of the people from the first class cabins didn't show up for the launch. My thoughts on this were, if they were told by their upper class friends, nah, don't get on this ship, we're going to sink it, of course they wouldn't get on it. But if they weren't told this, why would they have missed the launch of a ship that was supposedly the greatest ship of all time? It was the biggest ship in the world at this point. Why would they want to miss it? Around the time of Titanic, there were a lot of strikes going on, and one of the most famous was a coal mine strike. Now, Titanic had a very, very hard time in finding people to work on board the ship. And my thoughts on this is because some people had heard that the ship was going to be sunk. They were going to hit an iceberg for the insurance money, so don't get on this ship because you'll go down with it and you won't sort of hear the end of it. Bit of evidence to back this up is one of the people that worked on the Titanic that actually survived, on his deathbed, had said, I know it wasn't the Titanic, it was the Olympic that went down that day. So they could have swapped the ships, people got wind of it, they didn't want to work on the ship because they knew it was going to be sunk, for the insurance money that Titanic would have received. It's all kind of funny when you think about it. Titanic didn't actually have binoculars at hand to point out the iceberg. Now you may be thinking, what? How is that possible? Well, the one person that had the key to the storage room that the binoculars were kept in didn't get on the ship, and he did not pass the key to someone that was getting on the ship. So this meant that binoculars could not be used to view in front of them, so they could not see, and therefore if they did see an iceberg with binoculars they would have been able to avoid it. So this could have been a deliberate plot to sink the Titanic, because they knew there would have been icebergs. They wouldn't have been able to avoid them without binoculars, and the one person with the key didn't get on the ship, didn't pass over the key. If you look at pictures from Titanic's launch, again, you can see that there is a big black mark on the hull of the ship. Now, what a lot of people think is that there was a fire that was burning for a long time, and it weakened the side of the ship, because if this had happened it would have been a lot easier to break the side of the ship. But if this was Titanic's maiden launch, why would a fire have been burning for so long? Why would there be a fire mark? This could be more evidence to point towards the fact that it was not Titanic but it was Olympic, because Olympic had been in circulation for a while and had done multiple trips, so fires in that would have been burning for a lot longer and there would have been more fires happening, so it would have weakened the structure of the ship. Meaning, you guessed it, if it hit an iceberg it would easily scrape and rip the side of the ship. When the film Titanic was being made, James Cameron actually went down in a submarine to the wreck of Titanic. He took a bunch of pictures and videos, and then when he came back up to the surface, because he wasn't going to review them when he was down there, because why would you review footage and pictures of a ship that's right in front of you when you can just take in its beauty while you actually have the chance to be down there? When he reviewed the footage, he sort of released some images and that to the public, and we got quite a few glimpses and images and glances at this ship. And people noticed that on the side of the ship, the letters MP were on the side. I'm apologising because I realised that was probably backwards to you. My apologies. But Titanic was spelled Titanic. Where's the MP in Titanic? Let's spell Olympic. O-L-Y-M-P-I-C. Which one of the two has an M and a P in it? Oh yeah, Olympic. So what if they were swapped, but when they set the launch you couldn't see Olympic because of how high it was, or because it was on the other side of the ship, or just because people weren't paying attention, or what if something was put over to cover where it said Olympic so it actually did say Titanic? These are all possible things that people haven't really thought of until looking at stuff today. We probably will never know the truth about what happened to the Titanic, but as more things surface, we get more information about what has happened and we get to make our own judgment. I'm not saying anything bad about anyone that was on the Titanic or worked on the Titanic, because they do not deserve this sort of thing about them. I do not think that there are any people who are around at that point left anymore, but we need to show respect. I'm not saying anything negative. These are just all theories that people have had and noticed, and things that have been spotted, and just general facts like the binoculars. That was a fact, that they were locked away and the person with the key didn't get on the ship. And so yeah, that's all from me on this video. Leave a like if you like this video, comment your thoughts down below, hit subscribe. All my socials are linked down below, and if you want you can ding that bell. I will see you next week. Bye.